HTML shirt from Hired Web. Oh, there's the point. All right. Sorry, guys. We're just cutting up a little bit. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle James, your guest host for this evening's edition of Higher Ed Live, the weekly web show for marketing web professionals. Tune in to Higher Ed Live on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, which is right now, on higheradlive.com, and join us in the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag Higher Ed Live. And you can follow me, Kyle James, at Kyle James. So what do I do if you don't know who I am? My name is Kyle James. I run a higher ed marketing company that does interactive campus maps and virtual tours called nuCloud. nuCloud. Check it out if you want. And what we're going to talk about now is, why does SEO matter? We're going to bring the heat on this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed as much as we're going to have fun talking about it. But before we get into this, I want to take a couple seconds to talk about our sponsors. Let's give a couple shout outs here. First of all, OmniUpdate is a leading web content management system, CMS, provider for higher education. The company's web CMS, OU Campus, is secure and scalable with greater tools and features. Deployment, flexibility, and awesome user community. Look for a web CMS, check out OmniUpdate. Experience OmniUpdate's award-winning OU Campus through a live demo. Higher Ed Live is sponsored by Uversity, formerly Integral, the creators of the Schools app, a private Facebook community to boost enrollment and retention. Check out their blog, Uversity Roundtable, for posts on admission marketing, student engagement, and social media in higher education. We're tweeting the link out from the blog right now. Now I would like to introduce my guest. And with me tonight is Zac Vineyard. Is it Vineyard or Vineyard? How do you go by that?
It's Vineyard, just like a grape vineyard, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself, Zac.
Yeah, my name is Zac Vineyard. I'm the Director of Web Development at Northwest Nazarene University, which is a small, private Christian university outside of Boise, Idaho. I've been building websites for over 10 years, and for the last 5 years I've been doing that in higher ed. So, and I love it. Can't beat it.
And the thing that we really hold in common is we're kind of both SEO nuts. And that's why I asked Zac to come on this show today, because what we're going to talk about is SEO. And we kind of put a script together for the show, but more likely it's going to be just a fireside chat on a bunch of subject points. And where I wanted to really start is right there with the subject. Why does SEO matter? And anybody that's heard me talk about this, really it comes down to, if people can't find it, does it matter? And I'm going to go a little bit big school thinking here as I kind of introduce this. Many years ago, I haven't worked in higher ed for 5 years, but I spent 6 years running a college website. And for me, it was one of those things where everybody uses Google Analytics now. 6, 7 years ago when I first started talking about it, most people didn't. But approximately 33% of college website visitors come from search. And the majority of that is through Google. And the question I just want to propose out there when I say why SEO is, if you could increase the traffic to your website just by tweaking some things, would that make what you do more important? Now think about that. Like, I ran a small private liberal arts college that got 250,000 visitors per month, give or take. If I could get the number of people that were exposed to my brand to up 10%, at 25,000 more people to discover our stuff on a monthly basis, like, was that a big deal? Like, what do you think, Zac? I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal, right?
Oh, man, this is like right getting at the core of the issue, right? We can, using analytics, for example, we can highlight places where we're not doing a good job with SEO. We can also measure, like, well, are we turning leads, right? Are we generating volume for our academic programs by having good SEO, right? Or ranking well in search engines. And so, SEO is just right there, supporting the primary way of the people learn about our products. And we were just working on a program we have here. It's a program for adult and professional students who want to jump from their 2-year RN degree all the way to their BSN, and or their kind of bachelor's of science in nursing. And all the leads we're turning for that program right now are just because of cost per click advertising, because of a few other resources, but it's not doing very well in the organic SEO world, right? And I'm just thinking, how do we boost our visibility on this program, because it's just naturally becomes the way we can start generating leads and start connecting people to that program in a way that doesn't cost, doesn't have to have an advertising budget associated with it, right?
And that goes back to that core question, right? Like, if people can't find it, doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, great, we want this, we've got this cool program we want to do, but no one's finding it, and internal stakeholders get upset with that, but it's like, and this is kind of a gut punch for us all, but like, by not optimizing your content, by not making it easy to find, you're basically saying that what you do isn't important. And you don't want people to be able to find it. Like, it's kind of insulting, right?
I mean, this is the first thing we want to do, is just try and grow that program and make it as visible as possible, because we want to know whether there's room for it in the marketplace out there. And yeah, I mean, you might as well just ignore it if you can't get people to see it. I mean, why waste your time on promoting this program and writing the copy and building the site and getting your faculty members to try and develop a good academic product if nobody can find out about it? It looks like a big waste, and that's tough. So
and like, we're probably, there's a lot of buzz and talk right now about stuff like social media, mobile, content marketing is really hot, right? But I think all of that kind of comes back to this concept that we want to raise our hand, we want people to find us, but if you're not doing these core fundamental things, it still doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because people can't find it. Yeah.
I think,
let's go create this great, news release, but if no one can find it, doesn't matter.
Yeah. It becomes this weird balancing act too, from the content perspective, because you're saying, like, we need to fully explain a product to clearly the people who are going to partake in that, right? We need to make sure that they know and understand everything about a nursing degree before they buy it. But you end up kind of feeling like you're writing this type of SEO content and playing this content game that just I don't know, rides on the coattails of Google all the time, and so it becomes this weird Google, or this weird content place that you get into, because you really want to try and do both. And this is what's so cool, I think, about where SEO has gone, is that you really can live in that world where you're just writing good content for your programs, and with, I think, some more informed decisions about keywords and other things like that, making it visible to an audience and to a market out there.
I think you're making a great point that kind of leads right into our next point here.
Exactly.
We've got a couple of links in here, Brendan. I don't know if you want to tweet them out or whatnot. It's one's to Search Marketing or SearchMetrics.com. The other one's to Moz.com, formerly SEO Moz, where they're talking about their ranking factors, like what is important to rank now in search engines in 2013. And I mean, who hasn't heard of Google's been pushing a lot of updates recently to kind of make things like social media more relevant, more important to search engines. And I think it goes to this play that, like, you hear all of these people that anybody that's a webmaster out there gets these kind of emails. It's like from somebody in India that's it's like pitching snake oil. You know what I mean? It's like, if you would like to improve your rankings, please contact me back and I will help you rank for these words because Google's made these changes and you need to do this. And you get this dirty feeling from them. It's like it makes SEO like this dirty thing, and it's in Google's best interest to put the top results at the top of search engines.
Well, yeah, and it's actually the best results, right? I mean, like, right. We had competing strategies, SEO strategies at NNU just recently, and we still have them existing on some pages where, yeah, it's great that you can go out there and put keywords in your page title that you know are in some way relevant to your product, but not
Mhm.
necessarily relevant to the content that's on the page.
Mhm.
And you'll start ranking for those. I mean, in maybe even in small ways, and maybe even in big ways. But
Mhm.
that's really not a very sustainable long-term strategy, because your customer who, clicks on that page thinking it's about one thing and really finds out that it's about something else, just immediately just gets burned by the
Totally.
snake oil, right? Like they just look at it and go, oh, this is not what I thought it was.
Totally.
And so, that's just not really a very sustainable way of doing things, because it feels really weird and fractured to the user.
Yeah. I mean, to
So
kind of geek out on it for a
yeah,
second, like,
yeah,
why do you think Google offers Google Analytics for free?
right,
You know what I
exactly,
mean?
yeah,
It's like, because if they're passing a bunch of organic search traffic to a page that has a really high bounce rate, and guess what? Google Analytics tells them it has a pretty high, real high bounce rate, because you're
right.
giving Google that data about yourself because you're also getting it. So it tells them, obviously, this page isn't really doing a good job ranking for this. I probably need to lower the ranking for it. Dirty
Right.
little
They
secret
just
there, but it's true.
Yeah, they want to give you they want to provide the best data possible, and that's why when you look at um, those links we have, that are hopefully getting tweeted out right now, like you will see, like the Moz, the ranking factors report there that Moz puts out, is really has nothing to do with, how are those keywords doing in your title.
Yeah, totally.
Keywords is a part of that, and it always will be, because we're talking about language, but things like page authority and social signals, like how you're promoting your message and the quality of the content as it relates to things like the page title, are
Hmm.
way more important now than they ever used to be. Lots of businesses, I think, and especially small businesses, got wrapped up into um, keyword rankings, right? Like, oh, how's I want to be the best plumber in Idaho or something, right?
Yep.
How do I get there? Well, I just start using the keywords plumber and Idaho together a whole lot on my site, and hopefully I'll start ranking really well for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, let's
that's just
like
not realistic for a big website like a higher ed place, where we've got so many products in so many places, to really just be like, we're the best nursing in Idaho, the best nursing degree in Idaho. We want to be
yeah. I
better
mean,
than that in the long term.
like going back to the whole marketing theme, and Georgie and Rick and you people are all big on content marketing. We love you, but like, let's really be honest here. Content marketing is more like SEO 2.0. Really, you know what I mean? Because content marketing, putting quality, great content that people want to share, people want to engage with, that helps you rank better now.
Yeah. No, that's
It
exactly right.
is SEO.
Right. I think that's it. It's like the content strategy of SEO. I mean, or it becomes a part of content strategy overall. But really, those messages are so similar, because we're just saying, hey, go out there and create great content for people.
Yeah.
Um, Search engines have gotten very smart about how to provide the best content for your query. Google, when you type something in there, they want to provide that best result.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
going
not
back
always
to that snake
100%
oil,
accurate, but it's
right?
it's
It and
it's
it's
consistently
always
good.
striving to get better, you know. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
a multi-billion-dollar industry or business for Google, because think about it, like going back to the snake oilsman salesman strategy. If those people were starting to win, and you were searching for more results in Google and not liking the results that you're given, what are you going to do? You're going to go use something else, right? And do you think Google wants you to go use something else? Heck no. Because if they can't get you to use it, then they're losing money on paid search that they're selling. So it's in their absolute best interest to keep you as hooked to their free service, because what's the cost of changing? Nothing.
right.
Just setting your home page as Bing instead of Google, and going and using something else. And it's too important of a business for them not to do everything they can to continue to find what are the best results you could possibly want.
No, that's totally right. And we get to play the other side of that, which is just to make sure that we're following step number two, which is creating content that Google can provide for us, that's
Yeah,
good
yeah,
and relevant to users. Because as soon as they scroll down that page of search results from Google, they want to find something that's good, and
yeah.
not something that's just, oh, I thought this was a page for, a nursing program. Turns out it's a page for, you know, uh, something radically different than that. Uh, put your example in there.
Yeah,
But uh, it's just it's a world about SEO now is a world about content and quality of content, and all of those goes, and that's what really drives, I think, the most critical factors of SEO, which we would say are like domain authority, which is about how shareable is your content? Are people sharing it? Are there lots of links built to it? You're not going to get that without just having good content.
Totally.
You're not going to
build it, write it, and they will come.
Right. You're not going to. It's just like your post isn't going to go viral if it isn't great, right? If it's a stale invitation to an event, yeah, you might get a few people looking at it, but it's not going to be helping your efforts very much. So.
Yeah, and that's the fun part of the equation now is, that because I'm sure you get these questions from time to time. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have all these great, detailed, like very specific questions about SEO. Like, well, I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to figure out, should I do it this way or this way? And to me, it always comes back and it trumps them like, is that the absolute best piece of quality content you could put out there? Because at the end of the day, if you don't really use proper keywords, or you kind of use them, and if your URL's not exactly perfect, or whatever other reason, if the content is absolutely incredible, you'll get traffic and it'll rank. Because that's the most important thing. And if you're worried about, oh my God, should I spend 5 more minutes keyword stuffing or making this article a little bit better is going to win.
Yeah, I think that there is this kind of baseline recipe for content, kind of in the SEO world. If you know you have quality content, you know that it can be delivered, you know that people are going to share it. That's just a huge win already. And you might not really have to do much more than that. I mean, if you're kind of getting into, I don't know, your B-level content, right? I mean, I'm going back to this nursing program we have. It's a tough program to sell. It's not a 4-year degree. It's not a graduate program. It's niche. And because nursing over the last few years has been such a booming industry, there's lots and lots of that are similar to that out there on Google. So it's hard for us to create content that's really going to compel people to jump on the nursing degree bandwagon, and to really to buy that product. And so to kind of help it along, we end up kind of working at a baseline mode, making sure we have keywords in the page title, making sure that we have an H1 there, that we have an appropriate number of kind of keywords on the page that pull the search engines, and that we've got an image on the page that it looks good to the user, that it's relevant content to the user. But sometimes you kind of know out of the gate that it's not going to get to the first page, and that you have to start in your heart reevaluating your purposes behind the content of that page.
Yeah.
Are we really building it because we want to just get to the top of Google and hopefully we get more customers? Or is this going to be the content that helps persuade a customer once they're already here? Man, it becomes a problem.
Let's double click on that for a second. No pun intended. But I mean, it's you talk about relevance in keywords, and I think there's a very important concept that kind of falls into place here called the long tail keyword, right? And kind of the analogy I always give people that isn't necessarily higher ed focused, but I was working with a marketing company in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while, and they were out there trying to rank on the keyword Charlotte Web, right? Well, you can probably instantly figure out what the problem with that is, right? Because they're also competing with a little, very popular known child book called Charlotte's Web, right? And relevance is everything, and that's where really the long tail keyword comes into play. So even using that, like, obviously you want to rank for something like nursing, and maybe you even want to rank for something like nursing program, but is that really the right keyword?
Right.
Yeah, you probably want to rank for more the keyword of nursing program in Idaho, right?
Right.
Or maybe even more long tail. And the truth is if you think about the way we use search engines now, I don't go type in nursing or nursing program.
Right.
I type in a whole sentence and try to get what answer I want back with maybe using a little bit of logic gates in there or something, trying to define it. And I think people are getting smarter at that.
Yeah, you don't just search Twitter client. You search what's the best Twitter client for Android, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it has. I think that climate definitely has changed as people start just, search engines are totally saturated in the market. They're everywhere. They're on your phone. They're they're so fast and just in your browser now. They're all
Hmm.
over the place. And I think that you're exactly right. But those longer terms are becoming more common. We do try to focus more on 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 those longer terms for some reasons. It becomes a challenge for us. It's been a challenge for us with to make that successful on programs that are online. We have a ministry degree program, for example, that like most of the people who join that program are from the Midwest, and we're and if you were to really promote that degree program inside our region, like the Northwest, like Washington and Oregon and Idaho, I just wouldn't be turning any leads. I mean, we just don't get any leads from that part of the world, and so you have to start thinking about it in another term and in another way. You can still localize those searches to those other places and kind of try to hook some of those regional terms, but it feels kind of like a gamble sometimes, and isn't always there aren't always clear answers to it. So you end up writing content and testing and seeing if you're getting any leads or any results, and if not, maybe adjusting that strategy over time. It
Yeah.
unfortunately becomes something that isn't just a short-term band-aid on, hey, we don't have a lot of leads for this program. How do we start generating more from organic search? And it turns into a long strategy of, well, hi, where are our leads coming from? Where can we, what keywords can we connect to that we know will have some market behind them, and
Hmm.
or what type of content do we need to write to put it in front of the right audience?
Hmm.
That's a totally different situation. But
Well, let's go there. Let's go there
yeah,
a little bit because I think you're bringing up a very valid point that, I'm kind of preaching from the Bible here that SEO is about how do we drive more traffic, but
sure,
you're making such a valid point because ultimately, who cares about we're getting a bunch of traffic if it's a bunch of people looking for Charlotte's Web, the child's book, and we're not that. Like, if you've got a bunch of people looking for, nursing best practices because they've got an elderly grandparent, like
right.
leads, like new applicants, new inquiries. That's your ultimate goal because tuition pays the bills, not a bunch of people visiting your traffic and sucking up your bandwidth.
Hopefully becomes no, that's exactly right. You hopefully have some other ways of creating content about your program that can help drive traffic. Our engineering
Mhm.
program here at NNU, for example, has just done some amazing things over the last 3 years. We have a group of students who have been going to NASA. They fly on the zero gravity plane. They're literally putting rockets in space, and amazing other things. And that's super awesome because it gets the media talking about your programs. It gets NASA talking about your programs. I mean, it
Mhm.
gets all of this other energy. It's when you've got a BN, a small little nursing degree that doesn't have you know a
It's not
medical
as
center
cool.
behind it or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not as cool, and so it's much harder to talk about that. So you got to do your best, but without at some point you also have to realize at some point without more marketing resources like dollars to spend on advertising, um, and and a better website or somebody to write tons and tons of content for you, organic SEO is only going to get you so far, right?
Right.
We're talking about good quality content. We're talking about the best content served by search engines. Not always, mediocre content's not always going to fare well out there in a competitive world. Um, and if you don't have much to talk about, then you're not going to have much for people to search for. So
Right. I think that's the point, right?
yeah,
If, and,
it's,
and I think that goes to if we want to talk about SEO strictly from kind of a numbers game,
yeah,
right? Like if you look at college websites, those are some of the oldest and largest websites on the web, which is a great thing from an SEO standpoint because it means you're some of the largest and most respected websites. Google and other search engines actually give .edu domains a little extra bump simply because not anybody can have a .edu domain. They know
right.
you've been there forever, and they know that you're not trying to sell Viagra. You know, you don't have to worry about getting hacked and spamming people because it's a very trusted source, and because of that, you get a little bit extra bump. So simply in nature, if you produce good quality content, if it comes down to you versus some other site, you're gonna kind of step ahead of them. Just all of the things being equal.
Yeah, this is such a classic thing about I think contemporary SEO now, and that's just helping you drive domain authority, right? You want to have more authority out there for Google, right, to respect.
Hmm.
And you're right, you're exactly right. .edus tend to have more domain authority because it is kind of a protected resource out there on the internet. It's just not another .com or a .net, and um, you want people who have more domain authority than you. Like we really want NASA to be linking to our engineering
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
And that's domain authority gold right there. That's really helping drive our SEO efforts because Google's going to notice that relationship,
Oh
even
yeah.
however small. Um, you want to make it to the front page of Reddit, man, right? Not necessarily because it's gonna kill your website, but because that link is going to be everywhere, and that's just driving their super high domain authority, um, or just kind of building that relationship between those two destinations, those two sites, and it makes you look more trusted, makes you look
Yeah.
better. That becomes a part of it. But it's hard to, again, it's hard to have to encourage people to link back to you if you worth sharing, right? Or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
worth
If you're
talking
not
about.
creating remarkable content,
Yeah, exactly.
it comes back to that same point again.
Let me
But
club that point as
yeah, yeah, I'm gonna beat it
again
over
with
the head
another
here.
stick. Yeah.
This is on this episode of Hi Ed Web, we're going to use a club.
Exactly.
And I think, like talking about this number game, because I love kind of making this point with people that SEO is this annuity concept. Like everybody's familiar with like how interest works at a bank account, right? Like you
Yeah.
go put in $1. If you make 5% interest after a year, you have $1.05. And then after another year, you don't have $1.10 because that 5 cent also made you interest, so you might have $1.11 or something like that. And I think the same thing absolutely applies with kind of SEO. That if you create great content, you get 100. We'll keep the numbers really simple here. You get 100 visitors this month from that content, right? Like if it's really good and it's timeless content, you'll probably get from it next month, and then 100 visitors the month after that. And where you win on this is you don't just create one article or one news release or whatever, one compelling story. You're creating one every week or every month, and it's just continuing to pile on each other. So if you're following this concept, you know that one page that gets you 100 visits, next month you've got two pages that are each getting you 100 visits, you're getting 200. So it really does build upon itself to help you get more and more traffic.
I think this is a place where people who are really getting into SEO early on can feel frustrated.
Yeah.
It because you're putting content out there and you're putting content out there and you might not just be seeing returns right away. And I can't emphasize enough that organic SEO is a long-term approach. It's to driving more sales. I mean, we can say it that raw, like we can say it that way.
Hmm.
And so you can't just expect, hey, I wrote one blog post and then to see immediately start seeing a little bit of return on that.
Yeah.
Great if you do. If you did, you hit a little gold mine, and you should kind of duplicate your efforts or keep moving in that world. But um, if you, it might be not as clear early on whether or not the content you're writing now is really going to pay off for you. And I, I really encourage people when I see that happening to just keep living it out, keep living out that long strategy, and keep creating content that's going to hopefully put more people on your website uh,
Yeah.
and kind of build that annuity, right? Like
Right.
grow that
Yeah.
investment, grow that investment.
Which is so much almost of a foreign concept to people that work and do things in the web, right? Because we're so used to getting instant gratification because
Yeah,
we just put this thing on Twitter and we get a couple retweets, or we posted something on Facebook. Oh gosh, we got 15 likes in the last 3 minutes on it. And,
right.
and
No,
we
exactly.
expect and want this instant gratification. And what we're saying is that's all good on an individual article by article basis. But SEO is worse.
I think you just cut out there for a second, Kyle, but so maybe if you could
Can you
rephrase
hear
or
me?
yeah, you are back on. I can hear you.
Oh, I was just saying that, that stuff on social media, those little viral activities that you
Oh yeah,
have, are kind of like your day-to-day victories. But the SEO concept is like you win a game, but you still have to win the championship.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, no,
And that's where
exactly.
you've got to kind of think of this SEO is how do you wrap these little victories into a long-term strategy, because every one of those builds upon this big framework
Yeah,
that helps the next time you do something like that. Maybe you got 25 likes on this one article. The next time you post something, the likelihood of you getting a little extra mojo is a little bit more because of that past successes, if you will.
no, no, that's exactly right. We started a small little marketing campaign here on campus this year to kind of drive a little more, or hopefully drive some enrollment by kind of drive enrollment in a place where we saw um, a clear lack of enrollment, and so we started a blog that was connected to this, and we were writing content for this, and the content is great, and it's ultra shareable. But the first post goes out, and we see, okay, we got some hits, and that was great, and we shared it
Hmm.
on social, and it was out there, and people were seeing it, and then we saw the second post, and we saw a little bit better volume, and we saw a third post,
Hmm.
and we saw a little bit better volume, we saw a fourth post, and we saw a little bit better volume, and I think it is. You could clearly see that we were working out into the marketplace. People were seeing our content. We were getting a name for ourselves, kind of in this way, um, and uh, it was all starting to kind of catch some momentum, and it was great to see that. I think it's hard to. I think when we talk about a strategy like that to somebody who's works in higher ed by themselves, or and runs a 3,000 page website or whatever, and has 20 or 50 departments to work with,
Hmm.
it's going to start to feel extremely overwhelming when we say, oh yeah, just we need to be writing fresh content for each one of these programs and departments and stuff like that. So it can feel like always that you're losing the game every time
Yeah,
you step up to bat,
because
because
you're playing 50 games at the same
yeah,
time.
you play 50, yeah, exactly. They're all going at the same time, and so uh, my advice in that world is really to just try to really put the big games on the line. Even though you especially in higher ed, we get so many pressures from departments and offices to help sell their product and
Yeah.
promote their thing. Um, uh, Organic SEO is time consuming. It really is. It's about um, creating content, and that just takes time. It's
Yeah.
writing and it's researching and it's putting things together and it's doing keyword research and it's making sure keyword research is out there, making sure all the technical things about your pages are all right, that you have a title tag everywhere, you're using your H tags appropriately, that you've got images, that things are readable and accessible.
Hmm.
So it just takes time, and I think that you know I would really I really hope that people can take away from this that that you're going to feel overwhelmed by it, but don't don't let it just defeat your whole I don't know, those two or three games that you really need to play. Don't don't feel like you've already lost those, because I don't
Yeah,
think
and
that's
and I
true.
think to kind of go on with that, like you were talking about earlier, like the lead conversion, when you're saying like what are those couple of games that are the must-win games or the playoff series or whatever you want to call them, they're probably the departments that drive the most revenue for your school, or the ones that you're
Right.
trying to get off the ground and need an extra kickstart or whatnot. And there's a lot of egos in higher ed that don't want to hear that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where we kind of have to divvy up stuff and what is going to keep the lights on at the school, and maybe it is a couple of departments that a majority of students enroll in, and that's a large part, and that's kind of how you can make those or go towards those unpopular decisions, because you go right for what's your ultimate goal, and that's new students.
Yeah. And you know, I your SEO strategy has to align with your business objectives, right?
Yeah.
Super cool to go out there
Surprise.
and start. Yeah, right. Surprise. Yeah, it's so cool to just go out there and start writing posts about you know putting rockets into space, and I'm so happy that those align that doing that aligns with um, our business objectives, which is to grow enrollment in that program. And you start that process by writing that article and just telling other students that about the amazing experiences that students get to have
Yeah.
uh, as a part of our engineering department, and it's just gets the train moving, gets it moving forward, and gets you kind of on that process of creating those things. We still have to do the same thing for our nursing program, that I keep going back to, and it just becomes much more challenging because I just don't have as much to talk about. So, man, that's where it lands.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough thing, because in a perfect world we'd all get more resources. And I'm gonna go here. Let's go here, because we talk about how do we get those extra resources?
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, like we want to do all those little things, and I think there are those people that want us to do all those little things. And when you're trying to justify getting that extra support or that extra staff member or whatnot, like how else are you gonna do it unless you can like say, look, we're actually growing traffic to the site. You know
Right,
what I
yeah,
mean?
this is where analytics is just your friend in general. I mean, I can prove, for example, right now, like that from the web perspective, and I have to say that I have to qualify that because I don't know how many leads we're getting from people calling us in or sending in a fax or whatever.
Sure.
But the reality is that most of the leads we generate for the MBA program we have here at NNU are from organic searches online. Like people go out and they start looking for an MBA in Idaho. I'm sure, I'm just I'm kind of dreaming here about how somebody would do it, but typing in NNU's MBA program is super awesome and hitting enter and then finding our MBA program, and then
that's what I'd search for. I mean,
exactly,
absolutely
right?
what I'd search for.
It's a long tail term.
Long tail, it's got to have awesome in it, because that's what your page is optimized around.
Exactly. So but I can prove that, and I can take that back to a department stakeholder and say, hey, guess what? Last month we turned, we generated this number of leads because of organic search results right out of Google. And we've talked about this before, but it just starts this cool, hopefully this perpetual motion machine for you that just says, I think I can generate more leads from you by doing a better job with SEO, putting more content out there in front of more people. If I had another person, and surprise, guess what? Hopefully your analytics would just show that, hey, we generated this many more leads because of organic search engine results.
Right.
Hey, we need another person to do more organic SEO because we're getting so many leads in there. I think we can continue to grow that. I think we continue to grow that.
Right.
And I'm saying that from every program's perspective, not just from an MBA, but really we while that feels, it can feel like a limited resource and it can get tapped out eventually. All you really can just continue to grow into those worlds, because you can continue adding, like we said, with that annuity factor, just adding content to help bring people to the site to learn more about your product offerings. And
totally.
It's something that I don't think really ever slows down. One thing we did here at NNU to kind of help, we recently just did this, which is super nice, is we hired somebody just on a temporary status to come in and help us build some baselines on some of these programs, right? Like take care of some keywords, make sure we've got at least some basic content out there.
Some standard template content for each
right.
page.
And then help us see like places inside that content where, well, okay, we need another page to kind of talk about this other topic because we think that it's going to be important. And that person can be responsible for helping write that content, pointing out which keywords should probably be a part of that content, where we should publish it, all of that stuff. And it's an ongoing and evolving process for us, but maybe that's a place that some higher ed folks out there who struggle with SEO can go. Just make an investment right now to just hire a temporary employee for 3 months.
Student worker,
help you build that, right? That help you build that baseline.
An English major that loves to write.
Exactly. Everything we do in SEO world is not, it doesn't take a master's degree to do. You're going to write some basic HTML, so that means have that person connected, take the Code Academy course in HTML if they've never done HTML before. They got to know how to write, at least outline and write some basic content for a topic, and hopefully make it something that isn't just like a stale press release, like make it a little more engaging. They've got to know the basic factors that go into SEO optimizing a page, like the title, what's the purpose of a title tag, and what should be in, what is keyword stuffing? Does the description tag matter to anything anymore? They've got to be able to answer those questions and pick up that strategy. But honestly, none of that work is really outside the scope of, I think, anybody, who can do a good job of writing. Because that ultimately becomes the thing that powers and drives your SEO strategy in the long term. It's just, how good is your writing? Are you on topic? Can you connect with an audience? And those are all questions you learn in a good writing course, which is, are you speaking to your audience appropriately? Do you know who your audience is? I hope so, because you're about to bring them to a page, hopefully, using these keywords. And if not, you're bringing the wrong audience. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're hitting on exactly why we chose this subject. Why does SEO matter? And because I can prove to you that what I'm doing is actually returning value when you've got the business goals aligned and when you're setting the stuff up properly. And you're like, well, we don't have any money for that. Well, when you're able to predictably, and I'm saying predictably because it's pretty predictable what I can expect next month because of the volume we're talking about in this traffic. And because of the sources of it and whatnot, to say, I think I can bring you this much, and I'm basing this off real data instead of, well, we did a billboard last year, and I think we can do a billboard this year, and I don't know what's going to happen of it, but maybe you take billboard budget because you're offering a better model and actually able to provide data to decision makers.
We've been moving a lot, really, I think, trying to optimize a lot of our site and do a better job with it because it struggled for a long time. And I was sitting in my office with my boss, and we were walking through the strategy, and we're learning about it together, and we're working on it. And she's like, and there was this moment where I realized that she saw that picture, which is, I think we can drive more return over here and measure that return better than we can almost anywhere else with any other project. And all of a sudden, you could tell that her and I were both brainstorming on like, okay, so what do we cut out of the rest of our budget to drive this thing? Because we do get clear, measurable results. We know where people are coming from. We can connect that search to the growth of a program. I mean, this is all stuff that just people who didn't have the internet wished they had when in marketing departments. I mean, it's all data gold that helps drive your case for doing more SEO, having a better website, and it's all and it becomes interconnected in that way because without measurement, you have no idea what you're doing out there in the SEO world. But thank goodness we have so many tools to help us measure that performance.
I'm gonna ask something kind of controversial right here, but do you think, going back to that, it's something that old school marketers wish they could have, but do you think that part of the resistance of doing this stuff in a predictable model that you actually can show results is because people know once they have to show results and once they can show results, they'll be held accountable for them, and people in marketing have been able to have free money and no accountability for so long. That's a tough, I'm that's kind of a punch in the gut, but it's kind of, here's your marketing budget.
Right.
These great print brochures, but what was real ROI on that?
I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and I'm kind of conflicted over it because I think that on one hand, there's something really powerful in a statement that looks like this: 60% of your leads came from our website last year, right? And put X program in there, but 60% of your leads to to your graduate degree program came from this resource we have called a website, and not from those print ads we put in the local newspaper, right?
Which you can't 100% say that drove the other 40. The other 40% came from, I don't know.
Somewhere, and sometimes you can tie those together because sometimes you can get feedback out of your audience base, and on questionnaires or surveys, but it's always in a very kind of limited fashion and with
it's a lot of work,
a lot of constraints, and it takes forever. So there's definitely on one hand power in statements like that we know how much volume we're powering around here through our website, how much people are hopefully partaking in and starting to become our customer. the the other side of that is I still I struggle with a lot. There's been times where I haven't wanted to share data with stakeholders because I thought the data wasn't very impressive. Like, well, we're only turning like 10 leads for this program right now, and they could potentially look at that and go, how do we increase that because it's just terrible? And my response to that would be like, well, how big's your checkbook? And
yeah,
but that could also turn it. You would hope that it wouldn't turn into a conversation about product and product development, because that's sometimes where it has to go. Like, well, I don't know. Do you have a good program?
Well, and
you
the
almost
fear,
want to ask that sometimes, and that's
well, and the fear could also be you provide that data, and they're like, well, why are we putting money behind this? And they cut spent funding on it. And people like you and I, like, mentally 100%, we are convinced this is the right thing to do, and we like the accountability, and that, I guess that's the point I'm making, is some of that old school mentality, because we've never been held accountable for anything before.
Sure, yeah.
That accountability is scary, because then I have to be like, oh crap, I've been spending all this money on this for so long, and I'm getting beat in the ground by this new way of doing stuff.
Yeah, no,
and it's scary. Like, oh my gosh, I'm wrong. Like I don't know, but I think that's I don't know, it's a scary thing to think about, but it's like maybe it's an important conversation.
No, it is. At NNU this year, we really took a lot of time to really optimize our analytics presence, because we'd been working. I've been here for 5 years. We've been working. We flew like that for quite a while, knowing really just going like, well, we're putting money over here on these advertising projects to help grow that program. We're putting money over here, but never really had very many measurable indicators coming back to prove to us whether or not that was a good management decision or not. And so, I wanted to make it my goal this year, really to do that. Like, can we just get some really good data that's going to give us a better way to make management decisions?
Yeah.
That's kind of this weird precursor to SEO, right? Because immediately, as soon as you say that, you go, well, how do we do that? And that's just like tracking our website better, right?
Yeah.
And then it, for us, it has definitely boiled over into this other side, which is, okay, well, we're measuring stuff now. We know how many leads we're generating for our MBA because of organic SEO. How do we increase that? I couldn't agree with you more when you said like that accountability is something that I think computer people, especially me, really want more of. Man, I would love that. I love that I can look back, a year ago and go, oh, this is how many leads I turned last year. Am I still on pace? I really hope so.
Yeah.
Which is really me also asking, is my SEO strategy working?
Yeah.
Does my website just stink?
Right.
Do people really like this program? What's going on? Is the marketplace just totally dead now? I mean, that's just you asking the questions you need to ask in order to really grow a program.
Yeah.
Not just kind of shoot in the wind at growing a program.
Yeah. And to kind of throw this perspective, because I own my own company now. I don't work at a school, so and we're self-funded. We've never taken any venture capital or anything like that. And I look at it completely different. One, like, failing is an option. Failing is a great thing, because I learned never do that again. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got this blemish on my record. It's like, guess what? I didn't spend twice as much money doing something stupid. I only spent this much. But it's kind of more this mentality on the web, because you can get this data and this feedback. Like, people that go by that have this more of this fail fast. Like, I've got this test. I've got, like a scientist almost. I have this hypothesis. I want to run it and test it, and here are kind of my expectations. If I don't meet these 3 parameters, or these 3, or one requirement, then I'm going to quit doing it in 2 months. Instead of saying, oh, well, we did that last year, and I don't know, let's do it again this year.
Yeah,
you're a lot smarter about saying, like, I guess a perfect example of, we just started using Google AdWords. And Google AdWords is something that I 100% have been saying for years everybody in higher ed should be doing on some basis. but I've never done it. And about a month and a half ago, we started doing Google AdWords, 10 bucks a day. 10 bucks a day is allowing us to drive 30 more clicks to our website.
Right.
And could there be more I'm doing about conversion funnels and things like that to more business goals? Yes, and we'll get there. But is this test so far succeeding? Yes, because we're driving new leads.
Okay.
And it's $10 a day. That's
Yeah.
$3,500 a year. Of all, I can't go to a conference for $3,500 a year.
Yeah, exactly.
And that drives me 7,000 eyeballs to my site. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
that's an ROI perspective right there.
Yeah, I think that as soon as you start, if you've never jumped into the SEO world, as soon as you start, researching it online, and I think getting connected to that community, you clearly see this diverging world, right, of SEO, which is all organic and about your content and about the quality of your content, and then there's this other side, which is all bot, right, like paid advertising and how that can help drive people to your site. And and it gets kind of confusing because they're all talking about the same idea, right? We want to drive more traffic, right? We want to drive more return to you. I think, at NNU here we've adopted that other side that we call it SEM, search engine marketing. We've adopted that other side, like getting into AdWords and getting into other places. For example, we just started running, a few months ago we were running some ads for some of our adult and professional programs on LinkedIn, thinking that, hey, this might be a good opportunity for us because it's the type of social network for the people, the kind of the same demographic of people who we see in our programs, and it's failing pretty hard. And the reason we know it's failing pretty hard is because analytics is telling us that we're not turning leads based on those efforts. And surprise, surprise, the lead generators for those programs, the number one lead generator for those programs is still organic SEO, because people are more likely to do a Google search than they are to click on a LinkedIn ad.
Yeah. But going back to that concept, you've done it, and now you can kind of fail fast,
Right. Oh, exactly. I mean, this was like I think this has been maybe a 2-month strategy, maybe a little bit longer than that, and we're realizing like, I don't think this is where we want to be putting our money right now. Well, how about we take that money and put it into the organic side, because that's actually turning results for us. I think I have to highlight one thing there, and to some people that might sound like the wrong strategy to try, or the wrong approach to spending your money, which is, hey, we're already turning leads for using organic SEO. Why don't we try moving into these other areas? Like, why don't we spend our money on Facebook ads now and try that? Because we're already getting a little bit of volume out of our organic side. And I have to go back to your point about annuity, and that is that you can still spend money on creating compelling and smart content about your top programs for that long tail strategy, or that long term strategy. I just said long tail strategy, long term strategy, and still help grow that investment to the best that it can be, instead of, I think, risking your money on another decision or in another market.
Yeah. So. And it still comes back to that. You got to create great, compelling content for organic. Well, we've spent this time and money being man hours or whatever, creating this great thing. If we could get some extra exposure to it, that's probably not a bad idea. It's taking that thing and getting extra leverage for it. And people think
it's connecting it to a practical action from that person out there on the internet. They literally just search for master's degrees, Masters of Business Administration in Idaho. I want them to see as many opportunities to come to my site as humanly possible, right?
Yeah.
And you're not able to scale to those places without just putting more resources behind it.
Yeah.
So.
And then the great thing is, in that example, SEO is your baseline. Your organic traffic is your baseline, and then well, if I spend a little bit of time or a little bit of money on this, is it better spent than time I could be creating more organic content?
Right.
because I kind of know what that's going to do, and you can kind of juggle those bottles and say, well, you know what? Actually, spending a little bit on PPC does increase that value. Spending a little on LinkedIn turned out not to, but I have this baseline to make those decisions and to test those things on.
Right. Yeah. And then you've got a tool to help you measure it and tell you the truth about how you're doing. And you couldn't ask for, I think, a better scenario inside marketing strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have to do radio advertising.
All right, so
I mean?
we've got about
You know what I mean.
5 minutes left here. I've got a little kind of closing section here called "Stupid Simple Go Do It Now" tips. So a couple of these here. First one here is Xenu, ZNXENU. If you want to drop a link out on Twitter, it's a great free tool, and what it allows you to do is it crawls your website and reports back any broken links. Because if they're broken links, it's a crappy user experience when they click on something and get a 404 page. But also, it's hurting your organic ranking because, well, if Google's trying to go to a page and it's broken, they're going to pull that out of there, and it's not passing that link authority to your site. The next two here are SEO Moz. They have a bunch of free tools. Zach, you use these probably a lot more than I do, even at this point.
Yeah, SEO Matters is a paid product. It can do a lot for you. I haven't had a ton of exposure with my hands on the actual paid product, but we worked with a third-party consultant agency that uses SEO Matters to help us with that's really helped us with some of our SEO efforts. And I can do everything from track keyword search rankings for you, but also they have a whole analytics profile in there. They can do basic reports like this, like Xeno's doing, like tell you how many 404s are flagged on your site, or do you have pages that are missing a description or pages that are missing a title or anything like that. They can really help kind of build a comprehensive report for you on that world, so that you can do the basic things to make your site a lot better, and then you can take it from there to go into longer and I think more advanced strategies. But it does a great job of helping with those basics.
Yeah, I mean, Google Analytics, I think, honestly, this is probably the single best, biggest SEO tool for so many reasons. I mean, the dirty little secret, going back to what we were saying earlier, the more Google knows about your site, the more likely it is to get ranked. It's a kind of a dirty little secret, and the best way you can tell them as much information possible is by having analytics installed. Because then when someone visits a new page, Google automatically knows because they got that analytic tracking. But there's so much data that provides you, if you want to find out page titles, because you need to clean up page titles, bingo, all that's in Google Analytics.
Yeah.
URLs, you want to know what keywords are visiting your website. But I think probably one of the most underutilized things is you can go see what are the most popular pages on your website, right? One's getting the most traffic, and you want to talk about low-hanging fruit, go tweak those pages. Try to get those pages better. Work on your conversion funnel on them. Work on your page titles, URLs, keywords, things like that. I mean, so much stuff. What am I missing, Zach?
Oh no, I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you can just it can help inform you on everything. Like, well, we know that content didn't work. It can help you see all those pages that just maybe aren't doing the right strategy, and you need to think about creating different content. So yeah, but analytics, man, yeah, it's the central kind of brain of how all of this stuff gets measured. And if you don't have that component in the mix, you're really never going to be able to tell whether or not you're doing a good job with SEO.
Yeah. Here's a little tip that I always like to tell people, because one of the biggest problems we have with users are whenever they're linking on our website, and content users, they go put this thing and they make something that says, to learn more about this, click here. And they're so proud of themselves because they make click here link. And you want to pat them on the back and encourage them, but click here is a horrible, horrible way to link to content. And the example I always give people is go do a Google search on the term click here. Look what it returns. You see stuff like a W-9 on the IRS website. You see Adobe Reader, QuickTime, things like that. And the reason that those things rank on the top of the term click here, because what do they have in common? People all over the web say to download Adobe Reader, click here. To get a copy of your W-9, click here. They don't make W9 the link because everybody knows if something's blue and underlined, it's a link in 2013. And it's such a bad thing to do because it's not helping your internal rankings on keywords at all. So if you've got somebody that's an habitual offender of that, show them that example. It'll click. They'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, just related content, linking, if you've got, this is one of those easy plugins that if you've got a newsroom or something, there's other articles that are related to that subject. You should always link to it from the bottom. There's plugins that'll do that automatically. If you've got a news release talking about your nursing program, absolutely link to the nursing program page in that release because, one, it's a better user experience, but you have complete control of your internal linkings. So make sure that SEO juice is kind of passed around. And then, page titles, URLs, picture names. If you've got a picture file, don't let the name of it be nrc000523.jpg, which came directly from the digital camera. Rename that something meaningful because it's important because it helps the page rank, but it's also important because people search like stuff like Google image search, right?
Yeah.
Same for video files you upload to YouTube. So there's these little things stupid simple things you can go do right now. What else you got for us that kind of close us out here?
Man, I think we've really hit all the notes. When we think about SEO and tools and those basic tools, check out some of those paid solutions if you really have a little budget for it. I think SEO Matters is doing great work. Make sure your analytics profile is up and running. Make sure you have Go conversions going. Learn about all that stuff if you're just new and fresh. But really, I think we've really hit it all. So.
Yeah. SEO matters because if you don't do it, you're kicking yourself in the face. And on that note, next Thursday is Thanksgiving here in the U.S. for all of our U.S. listeners. So join us the following Thursday, December 5th, as Becky Bermont talks through leadership as marketing at the Rhode Island School of Design, right here in Hyatt Web or Hyatt Live. My name's Kyle James, and I'm signing off. Zac, you want to say bye?
Yeah, thanks everybody. I really appreciate being here, and we'll see you next time.
Holla!